Travis Wayne Goodsell, this is the reading of the amended complaint that I talked about earlier this morning. For the most part, I included an additional beginning and then went through and made editings where needed through the rest of the body of work. And then I'll resubmit it after this, after I finish this video editing, and then submit it. Then I'll put this video online for you, so that this will be emailed by the time you get this. Alright, nature of the case. If you want to refer back to the previous reading, it's in the playlist. Something to do with the 2020 lawsuit against the LDS Church. Reading has reading in it. Because the first part goes over how they're a criminal organization and design, which is necessary as I go through this. On September 9th, 2020, the plaintiff filed, in accordance with his First Amendment rights, case number 220 CV 00633 BSJ. Magistrate Judge Jared C. Bennett approved the plaintiff's complaint, though 9 days later, during which time the United States Attorney General William Barr spoke to prosecutors encouraging them to file. This is why I do an editing. Encouraging them to file sedition charges against Black Lives Matter protesters. According to the sedition law, which the plaintiff had filed his complaint under, the USAG is required to review it for disposition. Judge David Barlow was first assigned to the case, but recused himself the very next day. Judge Bruce S. Jenkins, however, did not recuse himself, despite his affiliation with the defendant, for which the plaintiff's complaint already included previous judges from case number 219 CV, it needs to be 00, not 99. 00711 CW for sedition complaints. On 8 October 2020, Judge Jenkins ordered the dismissal of the plaintiff's complaint without prejudice. The plaintiff has not yet received in the mail the judge's order to know his reasoning. But the plaintiff suspects it is because the notice of a typo upon service of the complaint upon the defendant, which according to the law for pro se litigants is not to be held against them. The plaintiff is resubmitting his complaint as the court delays and violations of law are acts of treason during a national crisis of a coup d'etat from domestic terrorists acting under orders of foreign terrorists to subjugate America to return to a monarchy, for which the defendant plays a complicit and active role as terrorists themselves. In the 2020 presidential debate, the incumbent national executive, gave orders to white supremacists, and specifically to the white supremacist group Proud Boys, to stand back and stand by. The Proud Boys responded on social media that they understood the call to arms. Then, in the 2020 vice presidential debate, The incumbent vice president likewise signaled white supremacists using the KKK slogan of America First. In the defendants' October 2020 General Conference, their first counselor, Dallin H. Oaks, signaled white supremacists by denouncing the Black Lives Matter protests, placing the authority of murderous cops over the rights of life, liberty, and property to we the people, and ordering victims of authoritative crime, abuse, and murder to sue rather than protest. The plaintiff knows all too well that when those in authority tell their victims to sue if they don't like the abuse, that it is a further bullying threat having the judicial system in their pocket, as no criminal charges can be filed, only, let's put a comma there, only civil for a slap on the wrist minimal fine. Senator Mitch McConnell has openly refused to send House bills to the floor of the Senate for a vote, but has placed a record number of all white supremacist judges on the benches throughout the nation for the expressed purpose to destroy the constitutional rights of we the people. It is not politics, it's treason. The defendant is aiding and abetting in this treason with their push with evangelicals in their religious freedom movement. Religion is already protected under the First Amendment. So the only reason to increase freedom is to take freedom from others to subjugate victims, of all types of discrimination and criminal abuse. The plaintiff is Mormon of the defendant, who claims true succession from the founder Joseph Smith Jr. Joseph Smith told of a day when the United States Constitution would be in jeopardy as our government would be under attack. Former CEO of the defendant and former United States Secretary of Agriculture Ezra Taft Benson told BYU students at a devotional that the Constitution would not be saved in Washington, meaning America would fail to save America from the coming, i.e. current, threat. In Joseph Smith's Book of Mormon, in 1 Nephi 1, there is the coded future date when the future coup d'etat would occur. Word does not put the little slash above the E, so it distracted me when I had to spell it correctly. In Joseph Smith's Doctrine and Covenants, section 45, verse 31, and 103, verse 16, he adds the date for when this enemy would unleash a viral weapon of mass destruction. The enemy has been the same since the threat to America. The enemy is the same since the who threatened America in September 1826 in Canandaigua, New York, which was prevented thanks to a reporter who triggered the anti-Mason movement, as the real American hero, the master mason of Canandaigua Lodge, Joseph Smith Sr., orchestrated the rescue of Captain William Morgan and took over the publication of his book, of his warning book. Well, of his book to warn the American people. Titling, not titling, I hope. I don't think there's a word called titling, so I'm sure it's titling. Titling it the Book of Mormon. But this enemy threat found out who caused their delay and ended up assassinating Joseph Smith Jr. and his brother Hiram, as Joseph was running as the first abolitionist presidential candidate for the United States. To give tribute, the enemy built. So this is why I do this video editing. To give tribute, the enemy built a temple in Nauvoo, Illinois, with the symbolism of their triumph, dedicated on 1st of May, 1846, the anniversary of the terrorist enemy, the Illuminati, organized in 1776. Brigham Young's son, Don Carlos, sculpted his father's homestead Eagle Gate, made sure to correct all those, entrance to identify Brigham as Illuminati, as the Salt Lake and Logan temples likewise included the Illuminati sign, to follow the Book of Helaman, 622, in the Book of Mormon. It is for this very reason that all judges of this court who are affiliated or compromised by the defendant must recuse themselves, as Judge Barlow did with case number 220 CV 00633 BSJ, whereas Judge Jenkins refused to recuse himself. Because of this court's deliberate delays, it is now too late for the plaintiff to save America, through the due process of the courts, as the defendant likewise gets an even greater extension to reply, to cause further delays, to extort this court to again find frivolous and criminal false cause, to dismiss the plaintiff's complaints. Judge Waddups falsely claimed the plaintiff used the abusive ad hominem fallacy against the defendant by presenting the defendant's own carved-in-stone symbol at Temple Square, being denied going to trial to present the case. The current national executive has already issued orders to declare martial law on Election Day, which white supremacists await to assist armed service members, as they've been doing against peaceful, unarmed, even mothers, Black Lives Matter protesters. And just the previous day of this amended complaint, there was an attempted kidnapping and murder of the governor of Michigan by white supremacists acting under the orders of the national executive. Congress failed to find the national executive guilty in his impeachment and are useless to protect America. Democrats give out false and vain hope to get we the people to vote the national executive out of office. need to put therefore. Democrats therefore give out false and vain hope to we the people to vote the national executive out of office when it's already rigged. When it's already rigged. Hundreds of thousands of ballots have already been discarded as election tampering and fraud began immediately with the early voting. There is a terrorist group called QAnon, which is backed by Russia, spreading the misinformation about Democrats and Hollywood celebrities who are the deep state, trying to attack the national executive and coup his coup. This deep state is accused of three main areas. Pay attention, Mormons. Being space aliens, 2 being Satanists, and 3 being pedophiles. The defendant fits QAnon's description, as the religious theology is that Mormons are from outer space, near a planet named Kolob. They have the carved sign of the Illuminati's god, Lucifer, the light bearer, who is known as Satan in Mormon theology. And the defendant has had numerous lawsuits over the decades, has numerous lawsuits against them, has had numerous lawsuits against them over the decades for pedophilia by religious leaders and regular Mormons within the Boy Scouts of America, and rapes of children and BYU female students who are capable of attending while still legally a minor, 17, because they're able to skip different in Utah. I didn't grow up in Utah, so I'm not too familiar of it, other than my baby sister did it when my parents moved up here. In the current CEO's first general conference, he announced the defendant was compromised to Russia. Say, no holds barred here. This is the end of the world. And let's just throw it all out. He also, in that first conference, took away the high priesthood generally, which in Mormon theology is necessary for the highest kingdom of afterlife glory. In so doing, Russell M. Nelson placed compromat in return on Mormons. With the coronavirus, Nelson, a medical doctor, has been aiding and abetting in the plot to infect all Americans to likewise place we the people in compromat, which has genocidally murdered over 200,000 Americans, with more than 7 or 8 million infected to date. Okay. Utah has been in red for at least a month, yet the Utah governor and lieutenant governor keep exposing Utahns to the virus, putting money over Utahns' lives. Money for businesses, for corporations like the defendant over Utahns' lives. The Utah governor's coronavirus website homepage has been declaring the white supremacist slogan of "Stay Strong." Likewise, the defendant's CEO refuses to shut the religious and business operations down, thus doing what the Book of Mormon warns against: murder to get gain. Okay, and then that's new stuff. Let's see if I can find. Count number 1 has been replaced, or not replaced. It's a new count 1 has been made, as everybody else got bumped up a count. It's still the treason. On 8 October 2020, Judge Bruce S. Jenkins, in case 220 CV 00633 BSJ, dismissed the plaintiff's First Amendment petition, knowing he must recuse himself from the case as Judge David Barlow had done. As a result, this court has again delayed the plaintiff's attempt to save America, and as such has aided and abetted the foreign and domestic enemies destroying America, i.e., the defendant. And then let's make sure all the pages are aligned. There were changing of the Seagull to Eagle Gate, and I'm sure my property manager will get notified of this, but I put in this time her signed confession of guilt and her intent to commit further crimes against me. So that will now be added in. As before I couldn't, because they filed it after I had already filed the complaint. So now with the amended complaint I can put it in. Alrighty, and then yeah, there's Eagle Gate. And injury, I included after I put in the plaintiff is in financial ruin, all because the defendant is threatened by the plaintiff's support for the founder, Joseph Smith Jr., as a translator. And so I added, the plaintiff is the decipherer of Paleo-Hebrew, and I capitalize the to make sure people understand, the decipherer of ancient Egyptian petroglyphs, resulting in his being the discoverer that the Bible stories derive from translations of the ancient Egyptian petroglyphs. As the defendant is fraudulently spreading themselves as a true success. Okay, so that was the added part there. And then request for relief, there was some editing, but not too much. I included the Attorney General, so let me read it for you. As no amount of money damages can compensate for the injury done to the plaintiff, the organization does not belong to the defendant, as they obtained it fraudulently and with the intent of terroristic activity. The plaintiff therefore seeks a vesting of title. That puts the Mountain Meadows massacre in a whole new twist of light for you, doesn't it? The plaintiff therefore seeks a vesting of title of the defendant's corporation to the plaintiff, as would best secure the rights of life, liberty, and property of the plaintiff. A RICO terrorist and treason criminal case would need to be processed. So this is why it was done the first time, sent to Attorney General Barr, because I put it in here. That's my request for relief, to ensure better security and safety in vesting title to the plaintiff, though the plaintiff has no confidence in the present U.S. Attorney General for his acts of treason. So yes, I'm well aware that they will turn on me and call me the treasonous one. They've done it before. Why would they stop now? But at least this will be on record. At least I'm doing something to save America. At least I'm doing something to save you guys. Alright, so again, I'll email it off and then do this video for you.